of the mechanical stuff! And I have to help you! You, the master of the stupid stuff!
Wild Wild West.
I don't have a radio.
Jacob the Liar.
Well, I'm not expecting flowers, but will we call each other?
Well, look, I was kind of hoping for flowers.
Message in a Bottle. What do these films have in common? Well, either I think, or Joel Siegel thinks, or we both think that they are very, very bad movies. And on this special edition of the worst movies of 1999, we're going to let them have it. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Joel Siegel of ABC's Good Morning America. It's payback time.
Sweet revenge. Okay, just a word before we begin. The traditional ground rules for this program, set up years ago by Gene Siskel and myself, are we don't pick on obscure little films, no matter how bad they are. We pick on big, visible films since they're more likely to be seen by more people and therefore cause more suffering. And we're calling our first category New But Not Improved, TV material recycled into unnecessary feature films. And my choice is Inspector Gadget, a cartoon that simply looked preposterous as live action. Matthew Broderick starred as the Gadgeteer who could summon up amazing gizmos if only he could remember the right cue words.
Go, go, Gadget! Coil! Skates! I meant skates! Give me a call, Louis. Forward! Hold, sir! Forward! Oh, for crying out loud!
Fans of the TV cartoon were enraged that the movie showed them the face of the arch-villain, Dr. Claw. He always went unseen on TV, and they didn't want to see him in the movie. One person who might agree with them is Rupert Everett, who played Dr. Claw. One of the freedoms of cartoons is their freedom from the ordinary laws of time and space, and in animation, we accept that, but in live action, unless it's done very well, it's not funny, it's just peculiar, and that's what this movie was.
I kept waiting for the gadget that would allow me to walk out of the theater, but it's not as bad as my pick in this category. Christopher Lloyd and Jeff Daniels, who star in my favorite Martian, a film version of the 60s TV series that starred Ray Walston. Among other felonies these filmmakers committed is one comedy writers called joking the joke. That's where filmmakers try to get the audience to think a movie's funny because the characters have funny hats or drive funny cars. I have yet to see a successful comedy where the hero drives a funny car. And my favorite Martian, Jeff Daniels, drives a 61 Valiant, misidentified, if I heard correctly, as a 62 Plymouth, but then the entire film was misidentified as a comedy.
We're gonna crash! I think not!
I don't understand why Hollywood insists on spending tens of millions of dollars to make a film version of a TV series that, if it were a TV series this year, would be canceled.
Maybe the test they should use is, was the show any good in the first place? For example, the Flintstones kind of translated a little bit better than this. Now, my thumb was down on this. I did like Christopher Lloyd. I did like some of the special effects, so I didn't hate it as much as you did, but I think you've asked an excellent question, and I think the answer is because these shows are brand names. People have heard of the show, so therefore they've heard of the movie, and you don't need to spend as much money to establish it. Maybe that's the reason.
But we have to suffer through them. Speaking of
Yes,
which,
we do.
the next category we suffered through, Mopey and Dopey. No, it's not Love Gone Sour Among the Seven Dwarfs. It's Love Stories Gone Sour at a theater near you. What would a worse list be without a Kevin Costner movie? This year he gave us two to choose from. It was close, but I'll go with Message in a Bottle, a slick, expensive, absolutely obvious and uninteresting tearjerker. Robin Wright Penn finds a message in a bottle, a love letter meant for a wife who died. She traces the typewriter, tracks down the writer, who just happens to be Kevin Costner.
This was going to be my signature boat, the one we'd never sell.
And when will you finish it?
Haven't touched it in 2 years.
I think the worst thing that happened to Kevin Costner was Dances with Wolves. It was too good and too easy too soon. He got spoiled. I don't think he's made a good movie since. But I do want to be fair. Paul Newman was so good in A Message in a Bottle. When the movie was over, I went and bought 3 jars of tomato sauce and ate them right out of the can.
He was really fine in this movie, and everything else was contrived and pretentious, and the ending was utterly and totally without credibility
or redeeming social value.
Any form of redeeming merit. I agree with you. My candidate, though, in the mopey-dopey category is, I think, even mopier and dopier than yours, because at least Message in a Bottle was about romance, whereas The Story of Us is completely inexplicable because it's mostly about a couple that has stopped loving one another, so they fight for most of the movie. The film stars Bruce Willis and Michelle Pfeiffer as a couple whose love is long since drained out of their marriage. The movie thinks their fights explain themselves, so there's no context, no motivation, just a lot of angry behavior.
2 Italian ices, please.
Honey, you don't have to say Italian. We're here, they know.
So what are you saying, that if I'm in Belgium and I order a Belgian waffle, I just say waffle?
Yes, just like if you were in Ireland and you wanted a bowl of Irish stew, you'd just say stew.
Michelle Pfeiffer and Bruce Willis are good actors and attractive people, but who in the world thought it would be entertaining to show them as two miserable sad sacks? I guess it was Rob Reiner who made this movie. I mean, if this had been a movie with the ambition to probe deeply into marital problems, that would have been one thing. But The Story of Us is as shallow as it is depressing.
I had heard that it started as a comedy, and they decided to make it serious. I don't know why, but the best line, I have to quote our peer and my friend Janet Maslin of the New York Times, who said, "This movie is so bad, people in the audience who weren't married were filing for divorce."
Coming up next, big stars and big bombs.
Excuse me?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the BBC in London.
That's Robin Williams in a scene from Jacob the Liar, a very unhappy addition to my worst films of the year list. A film about the Holocaust that not only fails to capture the terror of being a Jew in Nazi-occupied Poland, it doesn't even seem to try. Williams plays Jacob, who pretends he's heard on a radio that Russian troops will soon liberate his ghetto. It's not that Jacob lies. The film bends truth and historical fact for the convenience of the plot. Here is my, do I call it my favorite? Jews in Nazi-occupied ghetto getting a lunch break with lunch.
How could you tell they were American tanks?
Well, you get to know the difference. You know, American tanks, it's a different noise entirely.
What kind of noise?
Clean.
There's too much in Jacob the Liar that just isn't kosher. No signs in Yiddish. A young girl celebrates Shabbat, a word Eastern Europeans didn't use in 1944. With so many denying that it ever even happened, the Holocaust deserves attention to detail. This is a serious worst movie.
Oh, it really is bad, and without any of the heart that it thinks it has. So it's cloying because it thinks it's moving you and it's just kind of amazing you. A movie like Life is Beautiful, which was criticized by some for making entertainment out of the Holocaust, had its heart in the right place. This movie has its brain in the wrong place. Okay, continuing our category, big stars in bad movies, I'm going to nominate Sandra Bullock and Ben Affleck in Forces of Nature. They play strangers who meet after they survive an airplane crash together and decide to share a rental car for the drive to Savannah, Georgia.
Two wayward travelers stuck in a jail with a guy named Vic.
Suspect is Victor Franco, 3 priors for possession.
The journey includes all kinds of shamelessly contrived adventures, arrests, crashes, trees that fall on their car, storms they get in. Then they find themselves performing in a strip club. This isn't a story, it's an explosion at the road movie cliche factory. Forces of Nature is a dead zone of boring conversations and contrived emergencies, ending with a crashing, jaw-droppingly unbelievable anticlimax. And as for romantic chemistry, Affleck acts like he's chaperoning his best friend's sister as a favor, not a lover.
And the premise, it's a terrific premise. Two people who don't know each other come together. Some of the best movies ever made, the best stories ever told like that. And this...
Well, that's the cute meet, you know, where two people meet each other and then they get to like each other. But come on, no two people have ever had this many adventures in a lifetime, let alone in a week.
Coming up later, we each pick the year's worst movie, but coming up next, movies that self-destructed in a big way.
Oh, g'day boys and girls. Great to be back with you here today. I'm Bushka on Blitz as per normal, and we're here to have a chat about, in the most part, medium tanks. We will have a look at a bit of side scraping and some other stuff, but I really want to chat about mediums. It seems everyone wants to know about medium tanks. What's the best Tier 10 medium? What's the best way to play mediums? All that kind of stuff. And while I'm certainly not the best medium driver, I do love my Tier 10 mediums. Now for me, I prefer the E50M because I'm more of a gun guy, but I also drive the T62A and tanks like this Cromwell because I love tanks that have great camo and are really sneaky. And they're particularly different styles of play. you'll note the Cromwell is so manoeuvrable. Look at this. It's just getting up and out and sideways and moving around. I run those kind of tanks with nets. And then you get tanks like the Centurion 7 Mark 1, which have a really lovely gun, can side scrape a wee bit like that, and occasionally ammo rack a few humans. They're really fun tanks to play as well. So one thing that you'll very rarely get is speed and gun at the same time. Now, you will, however, with the T-62A get a fair representation of the gun and outstanding speed and manoeuvrability. It's very, very fragile though. It's a fragile tank. It can hull down, but your lower and upper glacis is free to pen from just about everyone from Tier 8 up. So bear that in mind when you're thinking about it. Now, I want to also talk about camouflage and how you should be playing those tanks. Oh God, I forgot about this. Oh, how disappointing. Now this is camouflage at work here. Basically, I'm running a net with this T-34. There's bushes on my right, so anyone on the other side, as long as I'm sitting still, will have a very difficult time of seeing me. Bushes add tremendously to your camo value of your tank. You'll note here, this Stug 3G, someone down there on my team has got eyes on or is close enough to constantly keep this guy lit up. He cannot see me for love nor money because no one on his team is spotting me. Now, if you're driving an E50 or a Panther, a Centurion, or a tank destroyer, anything that relies on long-range sniping, this is how you want to play. You want to find yourself a position that's got good views of key enemy strong points, has some bushes around it to protect you, and raise your camo values, and then snipe from there without fear of retribution. You'll also note I run a net on this Cromwell. I want you to take note. Now I've stopped dead there. Camo will be in full effect soon. Rather than fire at this tank, I'm just going to wait. I am now absolutely camoed up. I've got 15% from perks, a net, and the Cromwell's own camo values, and there is no one seeing me, and we are going to spot nearly their entire team. It was an easy win, this one, and we don't fire until we figure we've spotted most of their team, given everyone on our team an opportunity to get there and do the business. Now here we are in the T-62A on Castilla. Now the T-62A is a lovely blend. That gun, .34 dispersion, can hit weak spots, and it can brawl, but it's not super strong. Now, its T-54 is a renowned tank as a robust nugget. The T-62A doesn't have that kind of ability. It does, however, have excellent camouflage, as we've mentioned. Now, there's a T-62A coming in on my right-hand side here. We're going to have a bit of a brawl. Whenever you're brawling in a medium tank, it's really, really important you try and keep your upper front glacis and your lower glacis directed at the target at all times. It's your most effective armour, and you can see I'm hitting him with the nose in the end of his tracks where his drive wheels are. It weakens that drive wheel and makes it more likely that we're going to be able to track him. You can see I'm trying to just keep that upper glacis slightly angled towards him. Now the other thing you don't want to do is trade hit points in this tank. Any medium tank for that matter. It's bad policy. The doctrine for a heavy is quite often you are happy to give up hit points to ensure a kill. You know if you take one hit you might be able to get the kill on him. With a medium, that can make you combat ineffective. Yeah, so we've gone through the drive wheel there, just trying to slow him down, always trying to hit those drive wheels. What happens here is we find there's another tank, an IS-8, and we just move away from the fight. Because I've seen plenty of fights lost for want of a hit point. Even when it seems like it's an inevitable conclusion, there is nothing worse than losing a close one because of an easy mistake you've made. And when you get hit, pack up your troubles and get the hell out of there, because you are just as likely to get nailed. Now, we won this one comfortably. We did lose a few more tanks because that guy down the end could actually drive. However, we were there at the end still doing damage. Now, talking about doing damage, this is the spot. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't used this spot before, you probably should. Knowing, though, that if I'm in a medium T62A or an E50, I will be on the other side of this, proximity spotting you. We have, as mentioned, a combat net on the T62A. We have 15% camo from Perks, and we have the best camo in its class. You'll note we have fired from about 100 metres or 150 metres there, and we have not even set off the light bulb. The camo on this thing is superb. Now, those bushes there are a great camo modifier. They increase our effective camo by quite a large degree. All we do then is withdraw from line of sight, give it a little while to reset, go back out there, pop another one in, and repeat the process. Because of the profile of this tank as well, it is a very, very easy thing to do. The only thing you may have trouble with is gun depression from this position, tanks coming up that gully there. But you'll note that Jagdpanzer, we have all the time in the world. He cannot see us. We let the light reset, we go back out. Now, medium tanks are all about this kind of thing, certain mediums anyway, and if this is what you're after, this is the tank for you. Bearing in mind the T62A is a tank that is very unforgiving. It's super fragile, and if you don't treat it with the utmost respect, and I find I do this all the time, I trade hit points in it, I brawl in it, you should only be doing that as a last resort. It's a sneak and grab tank. Now, mediums are like that. You are meant to be spotting enemy tanks. You're doing damage, but you don't play fair in these tanks. If you're in a medium tank, you don't want to go out there until you're really sure that you're going to get the kill, or that you're very confident in your own abilities. Never give a full and even break, and that's what you're doing if you go out in a medium tank and try to engage straight and hard. Another tactic using camo is if you've got a big tank destroyer, like an Object 268 behind you, you can go and spot targets for them like this, and then allow them to do the damage. Now, you'll note here, I see a whole lot of targets, I get out of there. There's no point fighting a fight that you can't win or that you shouldn't win. At the same time, anyone up there that I've spotted is now fair game for the Object 268 behind me, and you'll see we both know exactly what's going on here. We haven't talked about it before the match, but he's got that guy, I give him the affirmative, he gives me one straight back. He knows exactly what we're talking about. Now, we spotted a few tanks up there. This is mediums and camo. This is why I love it. It's like if you've ever played an RPG, it's like a stealth class. You're rolling up behind this bush. Now, they know I'm there. They've spotted me. There goes the light bulb. I'm going to get behind this rock. I'm out of view. Sit still for a couple of seconds. Camo resets. They can't see me now. They absolutely can't see me. I'm going to just wait for the Jagdpanzer E100 to move around. He doesn't know where I've gone. And I am going to stroll, happy as a lark, right across there. There you go. It's finally popped. Use it intelligently and it will go a long way. Now, you sometimes have your hand forced. The enemy is a better tactician than you, and they make you brawl and you get punished for it. And that's when the T62A in the hands of a really good player comes alive. I can't make it work like that, or I don't have the patience to make it work, but I've seen lots of freaks do it. Now, you'll see here the Jag, we are just moving around. The T54 is joined in. That IS-4's traverse is terrible. I know I've driven one. It's not meant to be back in here in respawn, where it's able to be culled off from the herd and destroyed. But I've got absolutely no sympathy for him. He should have been up there giving the rest of his team a hand. Instead, he's hung back here camping respawn in what is one of the most defensive-minded heavies in the game. And this is where, like any good medium, it comes to the fore in manoeuvrability and damage per minute. Always going for that drive wheel you see there, even though it didn't get him, did damage to the track. The next one would have got him, but it was all over by now, bar the shouting. Now, coming up, we've got a game where I accidentally lucked into a clan game, an FOA clan game on Castilla. and really wasn't prepared for it. You can see there are 5 or 6 T-62As in this game, and I've been getting hammered from everywhere. I've put a few rounds in other people, but there's now tanks coming up on the right and the left. I'm going to get hit from behind here. That T-62A up top has seen me. I'm getting shots in the rear. It's time to go for a swim. Not a very gracious thing to be doing. A bit embarrassing, but hang on. What's going on there? Oh, yeah. Master Bonobo, I think it is, from FOE, has been pushed off the cliff by his mate. I think it's FOE Renault or Gok something, but his good buddy pushed him straight off the edge and then went on with life. You got to love this game. We also then go and swim across the moat. I always struggle with this map, Castilla, and I'm happy to get suggestions on it. I never really feel comfortable on this map. In any tank, it just feels very, very wide open, and there's so many different avenues, and it's very hard to protect a single flank. But there you have it. It's probably a good map for that. We do get a kill down here. We get our second kill. We missed that one, but we get the next one. So we jump in the water and get 2 kills in a clan game. Very, very interesting. Probably very undeserved, but thanks for pushing him in, guys. Now this is just a little side note. This is the worst of the week for me. We're on Middleburg. I am going to side scrape off this building here, confident in the knowledge that next to me I have an E75 and a T110E3, that there's no chance I'm going to be rushed and overwhelmed because I'm in a good position, and anyone that's stupid enough to step out there into the middle of the square will get what for. Now I don't see that FB, so I figure he's gone, but he is actually still there. You can see there on the mini-map, T110E3, E75. No worries. Surely they'll come out here. This guy is going to be ridiculous. He'll be copying it in no time at all. He's a tier 10 heavy. I'm a tier 8 heavy. Surely someone's going to do something. You can see on the inset, that's the view that Neo Ma or someone, I think his name is, has of this guy at the moment. You can see, he can see that entire square. He's not doing anything. I'm looking. I'm waiting. Nothing. Nothing. I looked at the scoreboard at the end, and he'd done about 500 hit points. He was tunnel visioning down the middle of town without... Look at him. I called him out on it, and the guy actually had the nerve to call me a noob and have a go at me for it. Let's have a look at what it looks like from his perspective. Neo Ma. What a genius. Let's have a look at it. Freeze it there. Oh my lord. All he had to do was drive forward a couple of paces, look to the right, and he had free, uninterrupted rain into the side of 2 enemy tanks. He never even saw them. There's been so much of this play lately. It's just embarrassing. But that's the worst of the week for me. I'm going to start doing a worst of the week in case you didn't know. Probably didn't because I haven't announced it. Now we're going to have a look at side scraping in a position where there's more than one enemy tank against you. It's really tricky. There's no hard and fast rules for this. But basically, if you're in a position like this where you've got a big tank destroyer behind you in a platoon, you can't sit back. You need to spot targets for him. You need to be a meat shield and let him or her actually just pump damage into the enemy tank. Now, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to set up off this building. There are tanks to the right. There are tanks to the left. There's actually quite a good T-54 platoon in this match. You can see they immediately set about trying to make my life a misery. And they do quite well at it. Now we're setting up to side scrape off the left. because we're sure we've got the right covered, and then they go and push even harder to the left. Now, I've given myself nowhere really to go here, so I've either got to start making it work by returning fire and making it uneconomical for them to move out, or figure something else out. And that's the only thing I can do. You can see Snake Eyes, who is in the T30 behind me, has said, yeah, you want to come out and have a hit at bush? No worries. I'm going to take 600 off every time you do. And it gave that T54 a real hurry up. He moved back in. Now, if you're doing this, you cannot move so far out that you give them free shots at your lower glacis. And that's why I'm not really that fussed here about returning effective fire. I'm more about just staying alive. Now what you want to do is give them shots at those tracks, and once they've got a load in the gun, they become target priority number one. So in other words, when someone's fired at you and you've bounced a shot, then you turn to the other side and you can bounce a shot from there as well. Now this T-54 moves forward. Look at me adjusting the angle on that building so that it goes from being a green slot he can hit to a slot he cannot get through. And you'll see we're taking shots, but we've got 4 enemy tanks going for us at the moment. We're angling so hard off that building on the left. There we got that bounce. We need another one out here. Going to take one and nail Mini Mirror. There's a Yag Tiger and the scent. We get one bounce off the Yag Tiger, so we can angle the scent now. And Snake Eyes has already had a crack at him. The Centurion's gone, and we're winner chicken dinner. So very tough tank, the E75, but you can do that in quite a few tanks. It's more about playing as a pairing and side scraping. As always, guys, I've been Bushka on Blitz. I hope that was an interesting little foray into the world of mediums and side scraping. If you've got any questions, please throw them at me in channel, because it's always good to get a bit of inspiration for these videos. I'd love to do something that is more suitable and more helpful. If there is anything in particular that you need help with or I can be of assistance with, make sure you let me know. As always, if you want to find me, I'm on the Asian server forums, hanging around as Bushka and playing on the Asian servers. Follow me on Twitter and stay safe on the battlefield. Late breaking news, boys and girls. I want to have a talk about this bug here. Now you'll see that E50 was facing away from me. I thought I was safe. I moved out and suddenly his gun's facing me and he's actually slipped one into me. That's been happening a bit lately for me. I'm not sure why in particular, but maybe it's just something I'm noticing now. But it happened in grand fashion to me on mines, and it actually cost us the game. If I had had the extra hit, I'm sure we would have won. It ended up coming down to 1 tank on 1 tank. You'll see here, that odd looking red circle is actually the hitbox for the VK looking at me. That's the front faceplate of his turret, and the red is the gun itself, saying I won't pen through there, but I can pen through those grey bits on the side. Only his gun is pointing to my right. And we're going to have a look at this in slow motion, and you'll see how frustrating this little bug is, and it's something to watch out for. If you see that kind of a hitbox with that circle on it or anything like that, you should be aware that it's not actually a bug. It's the game, well it is, but it's the game drawing the hitbox for the gun that's facing you. You can see here we are looking and making sure that he's available. He's not. His gun is facing us, so we're pulling back. Well, that's pretty standard form. You come out, you peek, you don't expose yourself, you change your view, you get into sniper mode again, come out, and you'll see here it's really, really obvious. There's his gun. Free shot, I think. You beaut. I'm going to put one in the side of the turret, and it bounces because he's looking straight at me, and he fires, cleans up my drive wheel and my track, and suddenly you'll see it pop straight back towards me. Very, very frustrating. Very, very annoying. So be on the lookout for that one, guys. Again, always handy on the How Not to Explode. I've been Bushka. Follow on at Bushka on Blitz on Twitter, and you'll all be well and good. Have a great day. Cheerio.